Greetings. Got another story for you today, and it's going to talk about systemic racism. I figured I might as well just get that part out of the way because I haven't really mentioned that particular term in any of the other videos I did on either one of my YouTube channels when I've been telling some of the stories of things that have happened to me over the years. In my particular instance, this is one of the issues that comes up often because I'm an independent black consultant. I'm incorporated, have my own business. Over the last few years, it's diminished a little bit because now I'm a full-time caregiver for my mother. But at one point, I was doing pretty well. But I didn't start off as well as I had hoped. So I've mentioned that I do healthcare finance, but I also do leadership and diversity seminars and a few other things. So I joined a couple of different organizations early on. One used to be called ASTD, now it's ATD, which is a training and development organization. And the other one is called SHRM. You know what, I don't even remember what SHRM stands for because I got so irked by the local group that I just had to leave. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. But let's talk about systemic racism first. In essence, basically, it is considered systemic racism when the powers that be seem to isolate someone who is not within the power structure based on race. And now that's how I'm saying it. You can go look it up if you want something a little bit deeper. But in my case, what has happened quite often is that I show up for an organization that I paid money for. I don't work for these people. As a matter of fact, I'm a member. I sign up. I get a card, I get letters, I get all this stuff. And then I'm treated as though nobody wants me there. And I want to tell this story about this organization, SHRM, actually Society for Human Resource Management. And so here's the deal. I had belonged to this organization probably 2.5 years at this point. And they were going to have this big seminar thing at a place. I can't remember the name of the place, but it was like they had a big space. And it was a beautiful big space. And I thought, you know what? This would be my chance to meet a lot more people than I do at the regular meetings. Now, here was the thing about the regular meetings. They would have these round tables that people could sit at. And, you might be at a table of 6 to 8 people. And a lot of times I would talk to maybe a couple of people at a table, but I didn't really get to talk to everybody because maybe, at least the way I was thinking early on, I was an unknown entity, at least early on. But after a couple of years of going to these meetings, you would have thought that there would have been more people who were comfortable with me being there. And I'm not going to say that I necessarily felt that people were uncomfortable, but I couldn't break through in talking to almost anybody. The couple of people that I did, I either knew from somewhere else or they were minorities. And you want to know the truth about it? There was 2, and neither one of them was black. And so, that was it. I recognized faces. I used to remember some of the names because, like I said, I was an early consultant. And I thought that, I did diversity. There was no one else who said that they did diversity training, so I wanted to make sure that I was one of those names that they would remember in case they heard of someone who might want to talk about diversity training. So anyway, this one time is going to be a lot more people, and I figured, yeah, you know what, this ought to be a good deal. So I go there, I'm dressed all nice like normal, and I go into the place, and probably close to 200 people are there, so this is a big deal. And I'm the only minority in the room. Now, I'm not going to say that I didn't think that was a problem because I did. Because right off the bat, I'm saying, wow, if there's ever a group that needs diversity, it's this one. Out of almost 200 people, I'm it. There's no one else here. And most of the people in the organization were human resource managers. So I'm thinking, wow, look at all these white people in here. Sorry, that's what I thought. So they decide they're going to break them up into different groups. They had, different numbers of topics. And so I look at the first topic, and the first topic was talking about healthcare and insurance. I'm thinking, wait, that's my background. I'd worked in healthcare at that point. I had consulted for almost 20 years. Actually, more than 20 years. So I'd worked as an employee for 18, and then I was a consultant, and I'm still a consultant in that. So I figured, you know what, this is something that I might know. So I go into the room, and there's maybe 35 women in there, and the woman leading the group is someone I knew. I had lunch with her a couple of times, so I knew her. So she's leading this discussion, and 10 minutes in, she's asking questions. No one is answering. No one has said a word. I have some suggestions, recognizing that I've got the background and I may have some ideas that someone can use. I put my hand up, and she looks at me and she says, Mitch, we're going to let someone else do some talking for a while if you don't mind. I did mind. I hadn't said anything. I had put my hand up. No one else had said anything during the entire time. Now I'm irked. But I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to let this go. We're going to see if anyone says anything. At the end of almost an hour, there were a few people who asked some questions or whatever, but no one had any answers. You know who had answers? Me. And because I'd been shut down early on, I decided not to say anything because I was irked. And that's just how that goes. So there's a couple of other things that go on, and I go to a couple of other things, and there's nothing, that I'm really interested in, but I still go because I'm making my, appearance there. I paid my money to go to this thing. And now it's lunchtime. So there's nobody who really wants to talk to me or anything. So I get some food, and I sit down at the table, and there's this other guy who's there already. And I make sure I don't sit next to him because, one, I don't know him, and two, I've already got a bad vibe in the room, so I decide I'm not going to, foist myself onto him. So the guy eventually, he starts talking to me, and I'm thinking, okay, this may go well. And so he asked me what I did, and I told him what I did, and he says to me, you know what the problem with this organization is? They let people like you in there. Now, I'm telling you right now, if there's only one minority in the room, no matter what your meaning is, don't say that. Just don't say that. Don't be that stupid. Now, this was 2004, 2005, but it was the stupidest thing I'd heard, but I was shocked. So I didn't say anything initially. Then I said, what's the problem you have with people like me? And he says, and he's not talking racism at the time, he says, the problem is that there's a lot of you guys who don't really know what we do because we actually work, whereas you don't. Now, I'm an independent consultant. Who says we don't work? We work, different work than him. We've decided to go out on our own, but he says that. But we work, and you don't really know our issues, which I'm thinking, well, you can tell me your issues. This is what consultants are for. Then he says, however, we need people like you because the rest of us are too busy working for someone else, whereas you guys have all the time in the world, and without you, we couldn't have any officers or board directors to set things up like this. I was not pleased a second time. But what more can I say? Okay. So the conversation pretty much ended there because I don't feel like talking to him. I don't know if he realized that he insulted me. I don't think he cared. But I'm thinking, wow, I paid enough money for this. I'm in this organization. I don't think this is going to get any better, but I'm not leaving just yet. So there's another seminar thing that's going to go on, and it's going to be about 70, 75 people sitting in this area. I run into a guy who I knew. I knew him from high school. And he was an okay guy back then. We got along. But he was also one of these kind of guys who was kind of smug. I don't know why he was smug. I didn't know if he thought he had more money than anybody else and whatever. I knew where he lived. He wasn't rich by any means. They may have been comfortable, but you know what? I was comfortable too. Still, I figured, oh, okay, I know him. And it turns out he was actually doing work with the lady I knew who stopped me from talking in the healthcare thing. They didn't work together. They were each independent in their own way. But they were doing some stuff together. So I go over to kind of talk to him. He talked to me maybe 2 minutes, and that was it. It was this kind of thing. Like, I'm above you. And I'm thinking, wow, you know what? I don't foist myself up on anybody. And that was the last straw. Even though I didn't leave immediately, that's the day I said, you know what? And this will show you how long ago it was. I said, I'm not paying $150 a year plus more money to come to these things to be disrespected like this. So they get into a presentation and they're talking about different things. And one woman in the room raises her hand and she says, you know, the thing is, I don't know anybody in the area who talks about diversity. And other people said, yeah, I don't know anyone who talks about, I don't know any. I shut up. You know, this is one of the things I did. I had given presentations like this in other states. I'd given one at the Syracuse Chamber of Commerce. That's what it was called back then. But you've got these people who are now saying this, and I'm sorry. You know what? At this point, I'm just done with this organization. I'm not saying a word. I don't care. Yes, is it going to affect my business? Yes. But was I worried that I would say something and people would all look over? And by the way, this happens all the time also. When you're black and you tell someone you do diversity training, their thought is, well, of course you do. I've had some people actually say that specifically to me. So, you know, what are you going to do? But that was it. I said, no, I'm done. I am done. I'm done. And I went home and I got on the computer and I went to the national organization and I canceled my membership with the national organization. And then I got emails from them for 3 years. I didn't get anything from the local group. I got something from the national group monthly for 3 years. I refused. I just didn't care. I've had to deal with that with other organizations, and I just was not having it anymore. Then there was a guy who joined a consultants group I'd been a part of since 2002, and he started talking up SHRM. And I had said, Jim, and I'm going to tell you his first name. Unfortunately, he passed away, last year. And he was an okay guy. He was a pretty good guy. I told him my story. He says, oh, I'm sorry that happened to you. Oh, wow, no wonder you're upset. It's too bad. You should come back and maybe tell that story to someone. Jim, no, that ain't happening. It's just not happening. They don't care. And I am not foisting that on anybody. Do I think that probably most of those people in the world need diversity training? Yes. Do I think the companies that some of those people represent need it? Yes. Do I think that there may be another consultant in there who might think that they know somebody who needs diversity training? Yeah. Am I going? No. Just not going to happen. Because I was just frustrated. I was college educated. I worked 18 years in healthcare. I was a director 3 different times. I was a regional director for a company that traveled around the state doing medical billing for physicians groups. But see, that's the thing about systemic racism. The folks don't see it. They don't think that there's anything different that they do that, for anybody else. But because you are the minority in the room, they think they can get away with saying anything they want to. And in this particular instance, they did. So the lady who I knew, who I'd been to lunch with a couple of times, never called her again, never wrote her again. I saw her in a meeting with my consultants group where she presented to everyone else, and she said, hi, Mitch. I said, hi. I didn't go any further. And I don't think she noticed one bit, and I don't think she cared. The guy who I knew from high school, never saw him again, didn't care. I don't even know who the guy who said this thing about me, as far as, the problem with the group is they let people like you. I didn't even know who he worked for because I could have cared less at that point. Or I couldn't care less. I always messed that up. But this is the kind of thing that happens all the time. We get dismissed. And for people who think that I'm just kind of harping on this whatever, if you're on LinkedIn, there are quite a few of us who are now mentioning issues that we've had. It's not just me, it's other people. Where you walk into a room because you don't have a traditional new black name, and people get that thing in their look, in their face, and then they try to cover it up because they're shocked. Because the voice they spoke to on the phone and the name that they saw in the email doesn't match the picture. And my picture's on my website, on the bio page. It shows they didn't do due diligence. Probably if they had, if they practiced systemic racism, which we know a lot of people do, I wouldn't have even got the call. Just telling it as it is. Anyway, that's another one of my experiences. My name is Mitch Mitchell. I got more. I'm going to see if I tell them all in order or if I go to another topic next week. Last week was on leadership. This week on diversity. Actually, it was diversity and leadership last week, so this is what we're getting right now. I hope y'all have a good week. If you're interested in this kind of thing, or you want to complain or have a conversation or whatever, think about liking this video, leave a comment, think about subscribing to the channel. I'll talk with y'all later.